let's talk about sexual agency. So, for the first half of the course, we've been working to understand dimensions of identity, such as sex, gender identity, sexual orientation, romantic attraction identity, and sexual attraction identity. All these different dimensions of identity, especially those which connect to our understandings of sexuality. Now that we've built up all of this knowledge, we're going to use it to explore sexual agency. First, though, I do want to note that a lot of the texts that we're going to read are going to be fairly imprecise and sometimes just wrong when it comes to using the correct terminology for sex and gender. Many of the authors just use those terms interchangeably in a very unrefined or nuanced way. So I want you to take note of that. And I want you to be aware that at this point, you know more than a lot of our authors. And I think that's just a very cool thing. So we now are going to work to understand sexual agency, what it is, what enables it, and what inhibits it. So first of all, sexual agency is, according to Quill Kukla, and I quote, the effective ability to avoid and refuse sex, as well as the ability to explore and pursue our desires and control our sexual narrative, which in turn enables us to take pleasure in our bodies and to pursue activities and relationships that enhance our flourishing. End quote. Crucially, sexual agency is something much more robust than simply having free will regarding sexual matters or something like that. Sexual agency is about much more than simply being able to make your own choices. It's about being able to act on those choices in meaningful ways, about being able to craft your own sexual narrative. And doing that requires scaffolding and social and material support. In order to genuinely support people's sexual agency, we need things like good sex ed so that people can make informed choices. We need a social world that doesn't try to force people into sexual encounters they do not want. And we need a social world that doesn't dismiss or diminish the sexual encounters that people do want to have. So we need all this kind of support, both social and material support, in order to facilitate participants' pleasure and well-being in terms of sexual agency. So very few of our texts are going to use the term sexual agency. In fact, only one author does, and we won't be reading it for a while. So your project is to keep this concept in mind as we read these texts. We're going to be working to construct an understanding of what sexual agency is, what sorts of things are necessary to promote and support sexual agency, and what sorts of things violate or disrupt sexual agency. We're going to keep coming back to these questions as we go forward for the rest of the course.